Hey guys, we're here with Sean Rowe. He is currently on tour, making a stop in Portland at the Doug Fir Lounge. And he's been wonderful enough to come by and talk a little to us about his music in the KGW Control Room. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Thanks.
For somebody who hasn't heard you, how would you describe your sound?
It's kind of like a magic show in a way, because it's just one guy, just me, but I try to expand the sound enough so that it sounds like a band, and I try to do that organically as much as possible. So I mess with the sounds, like sticking things in the guitar to make it sound different. Live is a bit different from my records historically, in terms of what you get in the sound. So that's what I try to do. What I'm working on now is really capturing what I do live and bringing that to a studio. It's hard because if you see me live, it's sometimes that sound is hard to translate into studio. So I usually use other musicians to help build up the sonic landscape, but I really want to capture what's happening live. And I know fans of mine really want that too. So I'm trying to do that for this next record. It's just a little bit of a tricky thing to figure out. Part of it is visual. When you see a person live, a lot of times you don't always realize that you're getting a lot visually too, and it's enhancing the sound. So that kind of works together. So you don't have that on recording, obviously. So you sort of have to compensate for that.
Going back to when you first started to play, when you first started to kind of discover music, who were your early influences? Who did you?
I loved like blues guys, R.L. Burnside and John Lee Hooker, Muddy Waters. They were like superheroes. They are, they're like comic book superheroes. They all had weird, cool names. They all had this one superpower guitar thing that they did that nobody else could replicate. Sunhouse, Muddy Waters, R.L. Burnside. They all had these techniques that were exclusive to them. They were the only ones that could do it. So I was like, man, I want to do that. So I would emulate these guys, but I was too lazy to learn in a good way. I was too lazy to sort of learn any like definitive technique. So I didn't really absorb the actual techniques. I just absorbed the idea of like going it on your own and creating your own sound.
Before you came in, I was listening to Downwind.
Yeah.
And one of the things that struck me was that it's almost got a doo-wop and surf feel to a part of it.
Yes, definitely surf feel.
And it's not something that, I would probably pull out of Howlin' Wolf or John Lee Hooker.
Sure.
How did you get to that point?
Well, I think that if you are serious about trying to pull out of yourself what's, who knows where you draw from, it's from a million places, but you would hope that you also add some of what is you into it, So I take a lot of different elements and a lot of it is subconscious, and I mix it in with my own sort of feeling to it. And, it comes out like that. Like you hear like echoes of things, and hopefully it's never like, whoa, dude, you sound exactly like this guy, you know what I mean? Which some people think it's like their mission to tell you, but hopefully it's like more like you borrow from your influences and you also add some of you into it.
A few years ago, you started doing house shows.
Yeah.
And it turned into a tour.
Yeah.
And you're still doing that.
Yeah.
I've got to imagine that's incredibly intimate to be
is.
going into fans' homes. Can you tell me a little bit about that experience?
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird because you are, you're about a couple feet away from somebody. And if you are there and you're just like spilling your soul in song form, it's weird to be that close. That proximity factor is intense, but I like that because I like it because of the weirdness, because it's so strange, and also because if you resonate with a certain artist, right, and that's how you see them, and that's the experience you get, that closeness, that's something that you'll remember forever, So I'm trying to facilitate that in somebody new coming to see me play. I want to be right there. I know what I like now in live performance, and it's usually that closeness. I try to get that anywhere I go.
What has been the reaction from the audiences at those shows?
Well, the best reaction is one of bewilderment on, what's happening up there, with one person. And I'm not saying that to be, egotistical. It's just the reality of it. Like I've worked hard at it for a lot of years, trying to facilitate and capture this sound of like condensed, rawness oozing out of one person. I've tried to capture that. So when I get that feedback, like, hey, this is what I'm hearing you do, and I get that feedback, that just makes my day. I love it. So people I think people like it.
I would imagine.
Yeah.
I would imagine that it's incredibly intense.
Right.
For you and for
yeah,
them.
it can be. Yeah. Yep.
How do fans, if they want to be on your house show tour, if they want to host you, how do they get in touch with you?
It's rowhouseconcerts@gmail.com. And then I have a house concert booking person, and they set up the whole thing. So anywhere in the country, we accept requests, and we go out there. If we're scheduling a tour out there, we'll make it happen.
You are more than just an avid outdoorsman. It's a lifestyle for you. And you spend a lot of time in the woods, in nature, camping, a lot of times without a lot of equipment. And I'm going to presume it's usually pretty quiet when you're out there. So for all that quiet, you sure make a lot of noise. Go ahead.
Yeah. It's kind of a paradox because I've been sort of balancing two worlds for a lot of years, and I appreciate solitude and quiet, but I also appreciate air mattresses and taking them with me when I go camping now. I used to be a lot more hardcore when I was younger, but now that I have kids and all that, But what I have taken with me from my training in wilderness survival and outdoor living is foraging. Foraging for wild food is something I do all the time, incorporate into my life, and I love to share it with people too. So that's another aspect of what I do.
Have you been able to do any of that while you've been in Portland?
Portland is probably the place to do it, but on this particular run, I don't have a lot of extra time. But I get asked all the time about mushrooms out here because it's you go out west and it's like everybody's picking mushrooms. Where I'm from in upstate New York, it's not as heavily participated in as far as the pastime goes. But out west, it's like everybody does it, But I have this show called Can I Eat This on YouTube, and people can check it out. It's free to watch, and it's essentially me going out harvesting wild food and cooking it, and just trying to make it entertaining and informative,
What do your kids think of that? You use them, they taste test?
They get a kick out of it. Yeah, my son and daughter both, they grew up sort of, they're still growing up because they're still kids, but I've tried to expose them to a lot of wild food when they were young. So now there's certain things that they really love that if I introduced it to them when they're later and adults, they'd probably be like, "Pop, get this away from me. You're weird." They know I'm weird, but they also are accustomed to these wild foods. So some of them they really like and enjoy and expect.
You're on tour right now. How many stops into the tour are you?
This is almost the end. Portland and Seattle, and that's it.
Have you played Doug Fir before?
Yeah, I love it. I'm going to be working on a new record really soon, but in the meantime, I've been releasing home recordings of new songs, and there's songs that I'm going to play on the show today that are exclusive to my Patreon page. So it's patreon.com/Sean Rao, and it's like a subscription-based thing where people opt in and they pay a subscription amount, and they get these new songs and videos about the songs, behind-the-scenes songs, also stuff on foraging. They get all that stuff by subscribing, becoming a member, and it's a way, if you really want to get on the inside of what I'm doing, it's a way to do that before any records come out, before I release stuff to the public. So I'm doing that on Patreon, so check that out.
Where can people go to find a little bit more about you and your music?
So go to SeanRao.net, and that's the hub for everything that I do.